My name is Mary Bevins. I'm a leader of a group that formed after Trump was elected. We were really concerned about health care and losing the ACA, yeah. San Mateo People for Health Care. I'm also a board member of Peace Action of San Mateo County. I'm a union member of UESF. I'm a teacher in San Francisco Unified. And I'm a constituent of Jerry House.
Yeah, great. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming up.
Hi, I'm from very south San Mateo County, on the border of Santa Cruz and Santa Clara County.
Oh, okay.
I've been involved in healthcare issues and organizations since 1986, and Proposition 186 was way probably before you were born.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
I was little though, yeah.
SB840 was also, we were involved in that, Ms. Sheila Kuehl.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've been working on it for a long time. Most of the senators and representatives pulled back when the Obamacare came in because they didn't want to endanger that. But now that the ACA is in danger and Trump is thinking of eliminating standard health care, we are renewed into SB562, which would be a single-payer bill which would cover vision, dental, all sorts of things that are not currently covered, and I'm for that very much. So.
Absolutely.
My name is Lois Aldwin. I live in San Mateo County, and I've been on Medicare for 5 years, and before that I was ripped off continually by the health insurance companies who would sign you up for health care with a list of surgeons as long as your arm, and then when you needed surgery they didn't have a contract with any of the surgeons in San Mateo County.
Right.
Yeah, but you paid for them all the time.
Right.
And so Medicare is such a superior system to the health insurance, in it for the profit only. And so I really think single payer is the way to go.
Absolutely.
I'm Joel Sarge. I've been working for single payer for about 15 years.
Great.
And I'm the chair of Healthcare for All Bay Area Peninsula. That's a mouthful. And a member of Physicians for a National Health Program.
We've got another edition.
Sure. There you go.
Oh, we lost some.
And I'm the guy in the back of the group who stands at the town halls and asks, well, how about SB 562? When are you going to commit to vote on that? And recently, Jerry said, oh, I'm going to vote for it. I have reasons why I should not be sponsoring it, but I think it deserves a chance, and we'll see if it works.
Yeah. He's always voted for it whenever it's come up before him.
No, he once abstained. And we're furious.
He might not have been. You might not have been there that day. He could have. I could look up the record, but as far as I know, he's always voted for it.
I can introduce yourself.
My name's Reed.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, I'm Rachel Cornejo. Although I'm not a constituent, I'm from Orange County in Anaheim. I am with the Coalition of Labor Union Women. I'm a member for Los Angeles, and I'm also Secretary Treasurer of the Orange County Coalition of Labor Union Women. I'm also a pipe fitter, trade, the local union 582. My concern is that even though we, as pipe fitters, we have our insurance, but when you get laid off, you don't have nothing. And so it gets ridiculous because my medicine as insulin, I took it every week. I had to get a ampule. Cost me $300 each week. And with the repeal of the ACA in the future, that's a concern because now I have the ACA at this time, and that saved my life. That has saved my life.
And I'm Bob Jung. I think most of us are constituted of Senator Hill, and we all took our day off, work, or wherever else. And we have buses from 20 cities coming up today, so I think there are a lot of passionate people about this effort. Myself, I'm a member of the Indivisible of South Bay. I'm part of their health subcommittee. I'm also part of the Santa Clara County Single Payer Health Coalition, and also part of Rise Up for Justice in San Jose. And you know, I think this is a really important issue. My father, who's passed now, he's like a typical senior citizen with lots of ailments and maxed out on his drugs very quickly, and we ended up buying most of his drugs from Canada. So I think, you know, that our family has seen those issues.
Absolutely.
So I think we had some stories we wanted to share with you. I don't know, Prashant, maybe you
Yeah,
can
well, started following this issue because the experience with my wife. She passed away 3.5 years ago. She was ill for 6 years, and this was around the time of the financial crisis. And so we had to deal with her illness and her medical bills, and also the prospect of me losing my job. And it was a miserable experience, and I think decoupling, you know, your health coverage from your employment is a huge.
It only makes sense, yeah.
To be, and I don't want anyone else to go through that. And this is with insurance, so it was
Right.
she was fully covered, but it was still a miserable experience, and I think I strongly support this one.
I'm so much hoping that this passes this time. My brother suffered so much, and I told everybody that, you know, it's, I don't know how you can share your story without getting upset, because, you know, he just knew he was sick for years with colon cancer, but he could not afford a doctor. And he lived with it till he couldn't live with it anymore, and he did not want to be a burden on anybody, so we finally got him to the emergency room. So he's just a classic. How do we get health care in this country? We go to the emergency room when it's too late.
Yes.
And you know, I mean,
Well,
it's,
that and 10 times more expensive.
of course, and your loved one suffers and you just can't pay for it. You know, I helped him as much as I could with the money I had. But fortunately, he was able to survive, but he suffered so much with it. And, you know, that was in '08. And then, you know, when the ACA passed, I think it was in '09, when the first thing passed, I was watching it on TV, hoping and praying, seeing how close it was, unbelievably, and not knowing that I was burst into tears when it passed. Didn't know where that came from. I'm watching it intellectually, it passed, and I burst. I was sobbing because it's the first time you feel like you got a little help somewhere, you know, with this crucial issue for your loved ones. So I just can't, I'm dedicating my life to this, as well as something else that Senator Hill supports, which is the Disclose Act. Because I know Senator Hill has sponsored that, and perhaps the most recent iteration he's sponsoring it, because the backlash to this, trying to get this passed, is going to be huge from the pharmaceuticals, from the insurance companies. We have to disclose who is funding the California ads in California to stop this such a fundamental thing to prevent human suffering. So the only other thing I want to say, Meegen, is to say, I know, because I am with the Physicians for National Health program as well, I've been working with them and sponsoring outreach to the communities that I'm part of, that we have to get the message out to the people, because the people are going to be scared. How can this happen? How can we have SB562? How can we afford it? It's scary to do something different. So I'm wondering if Jerry Hill has any, can commit to anything now that he's said he's voting for it, understood that he can't sponsor it for whatever reasons, but can he do any outreach to get the message out, to educate the people so they're not afraid to vote for
I mean,
this?
his district, we've gotten thousands of phone calls in support for the bill already. They've been inundating us for the last several days from the district, so I think our district gets it.
Do you think so? I mean, I feel like it's so critical, I don't want to assume anything.
The problem is I don't know how you get Central Valley folks and Inland Empire folks, and frankly, even if it passes the legislature, I don't know how it gets a signature from the governor's office. I mean, that's going to be another hurdle itself, but.
we realize that.
We will have to
There's
fight.
one more hurdle. They have to get a waiver from the federal government.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of hurdles,
Yeah.
but.
So is there a chance that Senator Hill would co-sponsor, or what are the issues with co-sponsoring for him?
I've asked him. He just said at this time, but he's already committed to voting for it.
Right, we appreciate that. We
So-
really appreciate that he's supporting it.
I mean, frankly, around this place, I mean, co-authoring it really doesn't mean that much, but people always think it does. But he's gonna vote for it, so. But
I know there are people in the inland, like you said, in the valley, who do not support the Republicans, and there are lots of us probably here in this room working to flip those districts. Jeff Denham's district out in Modesto and the local guy whose name escapes me right now, I mean, you know, the California representative. So there are things we can do, and I have gone to Modesto and to Merced to get signatures for the Disclose Act, because I know how fundamental that is. If we don't, if the advertising is going to be allowed to be so distorted, so propagandized, that they will actually be able to have an effect and make people afraid. So we're trying to get the Disclose Act to Jeff Denham and all those people. I'm actually going there and collecting signatures just for your information. I'm going to those districts and that. So, I mean, there are things we can do to be activated like that.
No, and that is what you guys can do, and reaching out to friends and family who live in Republican districts and
Yeah.
making sure that they contact their members. I mean, in all honesty, you calling Jeff Denham makes no big a difference because you're not his constituent, right? I mean, that's just a waste of his time and your time. But you calling your friend who lives in his district saying, hey, please call Jeff Denham's office, you know, this is a really important issue, explaining to them, they're like fired up, yeah, that is, and then they call, that does make a difference.
I have called and I learned something, and I'm going to share it with everybody here through the Physicians for National Health Program. If a senator, state senator, is on a committee, e.g. the Appropriations Committee, you can call those committee members, Meegen, and say, therefore, they're representing all of Californians. Am I mistaken or
Well,
not?
you can call, but again, it's a waste of your time, I'm just
But
being
Meegen,
honest
do
with
they
you.
not represent all Californians when they're on a committee?
Well, they represent all, they're a state senator their whole time, whether they vote on the floor, or they vote in committee, or they're sponsoring legislation. They're elected by constituents. They're elected to represent their constituents to the best of their ability. So, I mean, it's perfectly fine that you do. I'm not saying that is not your God-given right. I'm just letting you know, in all honesty, it doesn't make a difference. And I don't know.
There's also, well, we were talking about Republicans that were opposing the bill, but there's a few Democrats too that abstained in the health committee, and I'm concerned about that. What's wrong with
Can
that?
Senator
And
Hill help us
that's what I'm thinking.
persuade some of these other Democrats, or even some of the more
You're
middle
making a
of the
statement
road,
that's saying that the Democrats should support this bill as a block, and that there's no reason. It's a progressive issue. If you're a Democrat, that's what you stand for. You know.
I mean, we appreciate his voting for it, but can he help us promote it as well?
Is he willing to make a public statement for it?
I mean, I don't know when it comes up for a vote, perhaps he will. I mean, he very rarely, because we have so many members who talk on everything ad nauseum. So he's kind of gone the other direction now, where he speaks on very few bills just because so many members now speak so long on so many, on all of them. But I can certainly put in the request from you guys that you guys
I think
have to-
single payer could really be a landmark for this nation. Even California passes this, it could be really, really significant. I mean, there's lots of bills, but some are more weightier than others.
Absolutely, absolutely.
think-
There's another point,
Yeah.
we may be trying to place the onus where it doesn't belong. We have to reach out beyond our own comfort level, and not only talk to other leftist groups, but talk to the general population, people who misunderstand single payer,
Right.
and so on.
Right.
And I don't think, my own feeling is we're not doing a good enough job there. That doesn't mean we shouldn't ask if Jerry finds a way to help in this.
Right, and I
effort to
certainly
do it.
think, I mean, he's been a strong champion for it, and
Right.
I'm sure that I haven't spoken to him directly about that particular part of it, but I could certainly ask him on Monday when he gets back. I don't think that he would be opposed to it.
But we have work to do beyond our own comfort level, though.
The Appropriation Committee meets on Monday for this?
No, I
When
just
is
meant,
it
I just meant he
No,
gets
but I
back to the
thought it was
office on
scheduled,
Monday.
when is the Appropriation?
It's on
scheduled for-
suspense, they are meeting on Thursday. But I mean,
For
but
SB562.
for all the bills, but I mean,
Okay.
the author of the bill is the appropriations chair,
Yes,
so I
Laura.
guarantee you
Yeah,
it's getting
Senator Laura.
office appropriations, so these thousands and thousands of phone calls, people are calling about making sure it comes off suspense. Well, it's like, you couldn't have a better author, right? I mean, it's the appropriations chair, so it's moving forward. What happens after that on the full Senate floor vote, that I cannot tell you. I'm not of mind, I can't see into the future, but I envision this definitely moving on at least to the Assembly. The Assembly is a much more moderate Democratic caucus and much tougher. Just being in the building 11 years, I'm skeptical it'll get out of the Assembly, but I have been wrong before. And I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer. I'm always just trying to be honest with people about the fate of stuff in the Assembly. Is very, very challenging. Bills die over there all the time. Very progressive bills like sick leave bills, double time on holiday bills, all die in the Assembly. So I'm just forewarning people, as someone who's been in the building for 11 years now, that of course it's always a possibility, but I certainly envision this, of course, getting off suspense, and 90% likely it's going to get off the Senate floor too, because these are his colleagues, right? Once you're still in your own house, it's a Senate bill introduced by Senator Lara, who has a lot of sway over here. He'll, work the bill and make sure that it at least gets off the Senate floor, and then after that, of course, you don't have as much sway, right? This is in the Assembly. You don't have that, oh, this is my colleague's bill, I literally sit next to them on the Senate floor, right? You don't have that same thing. And I mean, that's the whole beauty/ugliness of a dual chamber government, is because the other house is in charge of looking at the other house's bills more critically. And so when the Assembly bills get over here, I guarantee you we kill a lot of those too. But it's also the same on the other side, right? The Senate bills will move over there, and not necessarily this one, I'm just saying in general, we lose a lot of Senate bills on the Assembly side too, because you don't have that camaraderie.
Yeah, I was going to say that Jerry Hill is my constituent, and if he has this strong feeling for being pro SB562, I think it would make him be in more powerful state if he were to co-author it, because people who are backing him, who are significant, otherwise he wouldn't be in office, would follow him more so if he was a co-author.
I'll ask him again.
Yeah, I don't see any reason for him to vote for it, but not be the co-author, one of the co-authors.
I'll ask him again.
Well, I'd like to point out, I think you're trying to give us a very realistic view of its chances. I'd also like to point out that single payer has passed twice and fallen to the veto of
Right.
the term.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not possible, like I said, and I'm not saying you shouldn't fight like hell for it and believe it, and I'm a strong supporter of universal health care myself as well. I always, on any bill, people come who make a long drive up here to let me know about anything, whether it's a gun bill or an animal rights bill or whatever it might be. I always just let know people kind of what the politics are and where things stand.
Megan, how many state senators are there and how many state assembly members
There's
are there?
40 and 80.
So there's 80 assembly members and 40 senators. Okay, good to know. I didn't know that. Yeah, we're going to have our work cut out for us for the assembly.
You
One thing we
mentioned
can
something
do to
about disclosure. You said something about disclosure. And
Disclose
what would that entail, just the donations from?
And the Disclose Act is a 2/3 vote bill, so that's always why it is, unfortunately has died.
Well, we have a supermajority. We're hoping that it passes.
But
Right.
Unfortunately, the Democrats
A
don't vote in block.
supermajority does not necessarily mean a
Do you have a
supermajority
copy of
of
the
the
bill
liberal.
in there?
Yeah.
I don't know if they have a
Yeah,
copy.
the Democrats
This is
don't
for-
vote the same.
Of course, yeah.
I thought it was always just a
No,
majority vote
it
bill.
requires,
The funding bill,
because there's funding associated
but I didn't
with
think there
it.
was funding in the bill. That's why they were able to keep that separate. I'll
No,
look, but
and there
you
is
might be right.
There's a revenue
Ma-
generation
Oh,
part
okay.
of
So
that
maybe they
bill.
combined it, but
Yes.
certainly when the other times it has passed, it was only a majority vote
Yeah,
bill.
so I
So
think this time we're gonna need the supermajority.
got it. Okay, which makes it very, very challenging. Is this for me or is this
Yeah,
for you?
it's
Oh,
It's
okay,
for
right.
you, you can share it
right.
with
I don't know if Senator Hill, like, I haven't looked into some of his donations, but one thing that he could take a stand on is making a pledge not to accept any campaign donations from pharmaceutical companies or from health insurance companies or fossil fuel companies for that matter. But if you can make those pledges,
I know he doesn't
especially
take any from oil companies.
thank God. Yeah, but just to sort of take a stance and like I don't take
Or
money
tobacco,
from these people.
or
Yeah.
a few of them.
Because just make sure he's not talking out of both sides of his mouth. That is that he's like, hey, I believe in universal health care and single payer health care, and that so I'm not going to take money from forces that oppose that at all. And just I would like you to ask him if you could take a pledge and maybe make a public stand on that, just to show that this is just the kind of politician he is, and this is his long-term agenda or short-term agenda. He's in it for single payer, not for the insurance and pharmaceutical industries.
That is such an excellent point,
That is.
because I've been working with not only SB562, but also the national program with Don Beckler and all these people, and we did there's a website, I don't know if you know, I think it's called Maplight, and it shows that Jackie
yeah.
Spear, who is my state assembly member in San Mateo,
She's your congressional.
Congresswoman, she is a recipient of lots of funds from the pharmaceuticals. You know, of course, we have Genentech and stuff like that, I think, in San Mateo County. However, you can't help but think that she is influenced by these campaign contributions. I think it's maplight.com or something like that. That's a website that shows how much each of the politicians is receiving. I'm not sure if Jerry Hill is on there, Meegen. I don't know if you could address that.
And connecting these 2 points, like as Mary said earlier, you know, if Senator Hill wants some town halls, and he's gonna come out strong in these positions, we'll organize, we'll get people there. And if that will help, you know, because, you know, if he gives up some money, we'll get the people out there to replace that, so, he can come out strong with some of these issues.
I don't think his position is threatened that much. I mean, like he's, you know, like I don't think the competitor who accepts pharmaceutical money is really gonna. That's not gonna make a difference. You know?
Right.
Yeah, except.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, and he's
Yeah.
not running for any more offices,
Well,
so.
except that Nancy Pelosi has single-handedly gotten certain bills that we were all in favor of. She killed those bills by coming out at the last minute opposed to them, like the bill to provide health care for the undocumented minors. No, not minors, they're undocumented, period.
In California.
In California, yeah. And that was scheduled, or slated for victory until a few days before Nancy Pelosi came out against it. And she has a list of donations from the pharmaceutical and insurance companies that have major investments. But I think, my own understanding of Jerry, he doesn't fall in the same category. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. I think he takes sincere efforts, and I think if he decides not to go a certain way, I would say write to him and ask him what his reasoning is refusing to sponsor is. Sometimes it's a question of what influence he can have as a non-sponsor
But
versus as a sponsor. And and he is a leader in the Senate, so write to him and ask him for specifics, but I wouldn't assume that he's insincere because of donations from pharmaceutical. There are
But if he
others-
doesn't accept donations, we know he's sincere.
Yes.
But if he does
exactly.
not accept donations, then we know he's sincere. So I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
But he has so many irons in the fire that ask him why. Don't indict him before giving him the benefit of the doubt. That's my feeling, and I've been approaching him for years and years and years. And there's no one better than Jerry Hill for straightening out a problem with state government on behalf of his constituents. My wife was one of them, and I know at least 24 others who've gone to Jerry Hill, and he has three really excellent aides in San Mateo who go to work and straighten these things
All
out.
they do all day
So,
is help
yeah.
constituents, yeah.
The funding campaigns is so fundamental, again, to trying to get corruption out of our political process and feel like we're being represented, because right now, not to say that about Jerry Hill, but largely, especially in the federal government, and probably our state as well, we are not being represented. There's lots of statistics and facts that just show we are not represented. If the wealthy elites, the corporations want representation, want some bill to pass, you can see that they get their bill passed. Whatever we want, minimum wage, healthcare for, all childcare, et cetera, just doesn't happen.
Because they did get the largest minimum wage increase this year.
Yeah, and that's good, it's still not affordable, I mean, come on now, I mean, really.
Right, I'm just letting
Exactly.
you
It's a
know
little, it's
that.
incremental, it's little bits, and to me it's crumbs, because
We have the highest now minimum wage in the country. It's not
Oh,
enough.
okay, at California, hey,
It's not enough.
Don't-
No
I'm
one's
happy to
arguing
be-
that it's a fair wage or a living wage, but we do have the highest minimum wage in the
okay,
country now.
point well taken, and that's why we, pursuant to Bob's point, it's just to say, as Californians, we wanna lead the way and show that we can do this, we can do single payer. You know, it
And
almost
it
passed.
works.
And it works, and our mortality, improves. I mean, the only state, you probably know this, in the United States for whom maternal mortality has improved rather than gotten worse is California. And the United States as a whole, this was the United Nations recently came out with this, did you guys know this? Maternal mortality has gotten worse in the United States, the only industrialized country, or one of the few, for whom it has gotten worse than better, maternal mortality. And that's just an indication, I mean, just look it up, it's just, we are just going downhill as a country. And that's just, except for California, maternal mortality improved in California. So, and we have to keep, leading the way. Vermont,
And things improve with ACA, the coverage greatly increased with ACA, and now that's under attack.
right, and
So this is where, if we can do single
Yeah,
payer
we've
California.
cut our uninsured in California by over half since the ACA.
Using the
yeah.
Medicaid provision
Well,
for the
right,
ACA.
and the Covered California
Yeah.
doing such a good job
Yeah.
in doing outreach and getting people enrolled and.
But there are still millions of people who weren't covered.
Right.
We don't know. Right now. It's Trump care or single payer for California. Those are our
Absolutely.
options. Those are our options.
So another thing that's been mentioned, I think a couple times here, is that, we passed it twice. It's been vetoed twice. Jerry Brown is,
It wasn't Jerry Brown.
no, what
Yeah,
Jerry,
yeah.
no, I'm saying what Jerry Brown now has not come out in support.
No.
Now, how can Senator Hill, or how can we help Senator Hill push Jerry Brown?
Well, I can guarantee you Jerry Hill is not gonna push Jerry Brown on anything if you know Jerry Brown at all. He is his own man, but certainly an upswelling of folks when and if it gets to the governor's desk, making sure that they send in letters and phone calls and all that, requesting a signature, of course, will be paramount. But, I mean, that's a fight yet to not
Right.
worry about. You got a lot of hurdles before then, so.
we have 80
But I think if he came out
Exactly.
now, some of these other Democrats who haven't come out are more likely, I think, if
That's a
Brown.
good question. I don't know. I don't know how much sway he has on a lot of the Democrat, especially Assembly members, since they're newer, don't really know him. That's interesting. I mean, he proposes a lot of things in this building that don't ever get passed through the legislature, so good and bad. I mean, he had some affordable housing streamlining stuff he wanted to do, but the environmental community and the cities just freaked out about it and it didn't go anywhere last year. So it's so kind of,
So
And
there's
he's
been
not
some,
gonna be running anymore.
there's been some talk of having it as a 2-year bill. Will that
right.
help?
I imagine to get all of it worked out and to figure out the dates and how do you transition and all of that, realistically, yes, and that's why it was introduced this year to allow, if it's needed, that second year to continue to work on it and make sure you get the votes and all that good stuff. I mean, any kind of more complicated or controversial or whatever type of big bill you introduce generally is done in the first year of the 2-year session to allow for that option. If you wait till the second year and it's dead, then you have to start all over again, and if you don't get it to the governor's desk before the end of the legislative session. So by introducing it the first year, it does give you much more opportunity to make sure you can, at least by the end of next year, get it to the governor's desk.
So what do you think are the biggest points why Assembly may not go for it? What are the issues that
Well,
are preventing people from voting for it?
They're just much more moderate. They're much more
But what issues could we?
business friendly, centered on it. And I think everyone's really waiting to have some kind of economic analysis done. There was
Right.
one done